Joining me now is our panel, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitali, Democratic pollster Cornell Belcher, he's also an NBC political analyst, and Lance Trover, Republican strategist and former spokesperson for Doug Burgum's presidential campaign. Ali, I recall the last time Florida was competitive. You and I spent 17 days there.
Living in that hotel.
That's right, covering the recount there in 2018. I remember at the time Democrats being worried that Florida would never be competitive again if they couldn't win that election. They were unable to. That entered in Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott.
Yeah.
Could Florida be competitive now that abortion's on the ballot?
I mean, because you and I remember almost spending Thanksgiving together in Tallahassee in 2018. The fact that we're here in this place debating a 6-week ban, a 15-week ban, the remaking of Florida in a ruby red color as opposed to purple, I mean, all of that hinged on, what was it, 0.25% of the vote in the Gillum-DeSantis race? I mean, elections have consequences, and we are watching them play out through the state of Florida. I think what's going to be difficult is we've never seen someone like Rick Scott, for example, run in a presidential year. So he's never had to see the presidential either drag or pull. We'll see how that works for him. But look, abortion has been across the board a motivator. It's been true in ruby red states like Ohio and Kentucky. Florida is red. I wouldn't put it ruby, at least not yet. But I do think that this is going to be something that it makes it hard to guess what it is, because women's rage is something that's kind of unquantifiable, but it is energizing and it is motivating, and Democrats are counting on that.
So, Cornell, I want to play some of the ad the Biden campaign released on this issue as they try and tap into it. Take a listen.
Because for 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Donald Trump ran to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, in 2024, he's running to pass a national ban on a woman's right to choose. I'm running to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again.
Is that effective, Cornell?
Well, look, I remember when Florida was really competitive, too. It was 2012 when we were winning it, when I was part of the Obama campaign. And so let's look at the numbers. Look at what we know this issue does. Take Michigan, for example, when we had that ballot initiative in Michigan. Going into the midterm, a lot of people talked about, well, Michigan is a state that Republicans should do really well in. Republicans should do really well in the midterm. That initiative drove youth turnout. We had the highest youth turnout in Michigan of anywhere in the country. Now, let's break down Florida. Florida is a state where turnout really, really matters, right? Go to 2020 when Trump won it. 32% of the electorate were 65 plus, seniors. We know a lot of seniors live in Florida. What was that turnout in 2012? They were only roughly 24, 25% of that, right? So you get a huge surge among base and youth voters. This issue has the potential, has an Obama-like potential to surge younger voters and Dem base voters, and that gives Democrats a shot in Florida.
So, Lance, the Trump campaign has tried to say that he's not in favor of a nationwide ban, that he specifically just wants this decision to be made by the states. But we have a state like Florida where the 6-week ban is among the most strict in the country. Is that argument something that resonates with voters?
Well, it's obviously a big issue, but if we talk about numbers, Republicans hold a voter registration advantage of 855,000 in that state. So that is a massive delta, if you will. I think voters are savvy enough on this issue. I think it's possible that a voter can walk into the voting booth and say, look, I can make a statement about abortion in my state, and I may vote for somebody else who, while I don't agree with that person on abortion, but I do agree with them on immigration and the economy. I think it's very possible.
Just two things. First, you and I both know this, and I think all of us here too. Democrats have sort of like let the entire party atrophy in the state of Florida over the course of the last 8 years. So they're kind of building from nothing. The idea that it's winnable is tough. But I also think, and you brought up Michigan, this week they repealed surrogacy bans in the state, which on its face, to a casual viewer, might have nothing to do with the abortion debate. But it all falls under the reproductive health care and freedoms umbrella. And I think that voters are very tuned into that in those swing states like Michigan, where Gretchen Whitmer is trying to build on what she's done, but then also in states like Florida, where they're trying to draw a real contrast between 6-week ban DeSantis and 24-week amendment that they're trying to put into their constitution. I mean, these are real contrasts that voters are very aware of what each side stands for, and now they just get to choose.
And it's very fair. I mean, tactically, look, Florida's a country. Right?
Yeah. Same with Texas, yeah.
Texas is a country, so the ideal, so yes, it takes an awful lot of money. And so for the Biden campaign, which thankfully, they have a big cash advantage. But look, from a campaign standpoint, what states are you going to spend less money in that you know you have to win to have a better chance in, so that you can make that huge investment in Florida? So it is a tough, real-world campaign decision.
Yeah.
So Republicans probably don't want to talk about abortion, but Lance, they do want to talk about immigration. And it seems as though President Trump brings that up every opportunity that he has, talking about it again today, now using the term bloodbath on these campaign placards. Is that okay? Or is this something that Republicans can identify with? Or does he risk going too far in using some of the language that he's used when it comes to this issue?
Well, I heard Garrett, who was on earlier. I mean, voters separate the rhetoric from the policies often with Donald Trump. If they did not, I'm not sure he would have been president in 2016. Voters know where he is on this stuff. They know that his rhetoric is tough on these issues, but he's still polling ahead or with Joe Biden right now. So, I mean, yeah, they know the rhetoric that's out there, but again, they kind of separate the policy from the rhetoric, and that's why he's still leading.
Is there enough with independent voters, though? Does he need those independent voters?
Well, I think we'll see that play out in due time. But I do know, and having looked at polling in other congressional districts throughout the country, particularly in the Midwest, this immigration issue is huge, and in some cases, it's passing up the economy.
Mm-hmm. Cornell.
The problem is, what you pointed out, is that the independent and moderate swath of voters. I mean, look, I'm not going to play the polling game, right, because we throw, he's polling ahead. Mm-hmm. Polls right now don't matter, and I'm a pollster, right? They're not predictive of anything. So what Donald Trump has to do is he has to grow beyond, well, look, we've seen a couple elections now. He's a 47, maybe 48% proposition. Can you get elected president 47%? Yeah, you can, but it's not probable, right? Can lightning strike twice? Yes. But no, he has to actually grow his base of support. This is not language where you're going to grow and be able to pull in more moderate, middle-of-the-road voters, where when you look at Obama and you look at then where Biden did, they dominated the moderate, middle swath of the electorate, and this sort of language just does not appeal to them.
I think back to 2004 when George W. Bush was running for re-election, and all these states put same-sex marriage initiatives on the ballot. And obviously the opinion of the country of same-sex marriage in 2004 dramatically different than what it is 20 years ago. Could abortion play the same kind of role in this election?
I definitely think so, because if I look at the last 10 years as I've been covering abortion access, the thing that's so striking to me is we're finally in this moment, finally, depending on who you talk to, being celebrated or not, but being post-Roe is something that has never been tested. It's only been theorized about. And so we're watching the cases sort of be made in real time electorally. When you look at ballot initiatives, and again, you go back to Ohio, which is a red state. They did this election on a random Tuesday in August. They gave folks like 3 months notice, and nowhere in the ballot initiative was the word abortion. Folks just knew. That really does tell me that when 3 million people are turning out in the dog days of summer, there's something to that. And in a red state, to see that kind of action on that issue, yeah, I do think this is one of those issues that makes it impossible to predict, because we've never been here before.
Well, I think that's why if you're a Republican candidate, the one thing you need to do is be very clear on where you stand on this issue. I'm not saying you need to make it the center point of your campaign, but be clear on where you stand on this issue and not let yourself get defined by the Democrats.
Is there a possibility Democrats can go too far on it, Cornell?
Well, this was the conversation we heard in the last midterm, and evidence says no, right? This is something, there's not a horror contrast, right? Donald Trump says, I'm the person who got rid of Roe v. Wade. Many want to do it. I'm the one who got it done. There's not an easier contrast than that anywhere. He made something happen that the vast majority of Americans did not want to happen, and we're going to continue to hit him and every Republican down the line on it. But you're right. Republicans don't want to talk about it. Who wins the campaign? He or she who defines the debate wins the debate. They want it to be about immigration. We want it to be about reproductive rights.
Okay, we'll see what happens in November. Allie, Cornell, Lance, thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.